Goodness gracious, great balls of blood. What is up? GoodMicWork back at you with your Great Balls of Fire results and reaction video. Wow, that was an insane pay-per-view. This show left us no shortage of things to talk about, and it was pretty incredible in a lot of ways. The Twitter poll that I just threw up 5 minutes ago, it's about 70-30 right now. That could change. But so far, most people liked the show, and a lot of you probably felt the same way I did. I was pretty much just okay with the show until we got to the last two matches, and there was some stuff that went on there that was pretty damn ridiculous. And I think we have to start with the Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman match. Here I thought I would want to come up here and immediately dive right in to Brock and Samoa Joe, and I'm going to talk plenty about that match here in a minute. But probably the biggest thing to happen on the show is what went down between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman in the ambulance match. I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of this match. I thought this was going to be a situation where Roman could get a victory over Braun Strowman and get his win back and maybe end the feud while not beating Strowman at the same time because it's an ambulance match and those things are ridiculous. So I had Roman Reigns pegged to win this thing all along, and I also had some sort of a crazy finish in mind. I thought somebody was going to go through the roof of the ambulance or through the windshield. I thought both guys might go through the roof of the ambulance, but instead the finish was something that I thought was not only good but slightly comical. After a pretty brutal and hard-hitting match in the ring, they find themselves up on the stage near the end, and they brawl up there. Strowman even goes through the big LED screen, and it was all malfunctioning and everything, and he's buried under this heap of rubble, and he climbs out, and Roman's got this, like, what do I have to do to beat this guy look on his face. And they eventually wind up back down by the ambulance, brawling in front of that. And then Roman Reigns goes for a spear, and he dives right into Strowman. Strowman moves, and Roman goes flying like a dart right into the ambulance, and he shuts the doors behind him. I thought that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. A great finish. That's a finish that I did not see coming. But instead of turning into the type of match where you want to beat your opponent so badly that you just throw his lifeless carcass into the ambulance, it became more of just get the guy in there no matter what. Reigns was almost in there once too, and he was like holding on to the sides of the ambulance, trying not to go in. So to me, I always thought the ambulance match would be a little bit more brutal. That's actually what I was thinking in my head, if you can fucking believe that, considering what we were about to see. But Roman Reigns, the way he lost, he didn't accept it. They announced Braun Strowman as the winner, and then Roman Reigns comes busting out of the ambulance, and he attacks Braun Strowman and starts kicking the shit out of him and throws him inside the ambulance and closes the door. He then yanks the driver out of the driver's seat, gets behind the wheel, and drives the ambulance out of the arena. So you're like, well, shit, even though Braun Strowman won, they're still going to have Roman Reigns kill this guy in the end and drive off with him in the ambulance. And I found myself a little annoyed. Until Roman Reigns decided to commit a crime that could land him in jail for the rest of his life. Attempted murder. He attempted to kill Braun Strowman. We've only seen attempted murder a few times. Most of the time from heels, sometimes from baby faces. Stone Cold dropped Triple H off a forklift from like 100 feet in the air, but the heels are the ones that usually do shit like this. Hulk Hogan tried to kill The Rock back in 2002 before WrestleMania. He would wind up being a babyface like 3 weeks after that, which is a little bit silly. The Undertaker hung Big Boss Man at WrestleMania. Kane set his own brother on fire. So heels have done some dastardly things over the years, and this is not the first time we've seen attempted murder or murder on WWE television for that matter. But the fact that this is coming from Roman Reigns, the fact that this guy is so outraged that he went to this level. I mean, this is the guy that fans are calling John Cena 2.0 and the lamest babyface of all time. Remember when he was saying things like tater tots on the mic? He went from tater tots to attempted murder. I mean, that's quite the leap there. So, there's still a lot of problems with Roman Reigns, and he's still annoying as shit in a lot of ways, but you can't say that the WWE is not at least trying some stuff to make him a little bit more badass. And if vehicular homicide does not make you badass, then I don't know what does. And here's my question. Was that a double turn? I mean, look at what happened. Roman Reigns crashed that ambulance. He drove it backwards at full speed right into the back of a semi. And I'm assuming they shot all this shit earlier on during the day. But after the big crash, Roman Reigns gets out and kind of surveys the damage and kind of runs off. Now he's a fucking fugitive. And Kurt Angle is out there, and Jamie Noble. The funniest thing was Jamie Noble trying to pry open the side of the ambulance with a crowbar. And they're like, call 911 or call somebody. Finally, a fire truck shows up, and a bunch of emergency workers have to cut him out with the jaws of life. life. They open up the ambulance, and Braun Strowman is in there all bloody, as if we didn't see enough blood on this show. Count them, 4 people bled tonight in a 2017 WWE pay-per-view. And Strowman was all done up with the blood. It was very gory. I think his arm where he had his surgery was reopened. His face was a mess of blood. He was trailing blood all over the place. They're even doing close-ups of the blood, and they've got the stretcher and the gurney out. They're expecting to take this lifeless corpse either to the morgue or to the hospital for emergency surgery to try to save his life, because his head is probably fucking caved in or he's missing a leg or something. But instead, he refuses help. He stumbles out of the ambulance, blood everywhere, and it was very like horror movie-ish, especially when the camera zoomed in on him. If I can find it, I'm going to use that as the thumbnail for this video because I think it'll look cool and it won't spoil anything. And there are certain times when WWE does things right, and sometimes these over-the-top backstage segments don't come off very well. This one came off very well. As a matter of fact, everything that these two guys have done together has come off well. Remember when Braun Strowman tried to murder Roman Reigns a few months ago when he went on that big backstage rampage and he threw Roman Reigns off the stretcher and then he put him in the ambulance and he tipped the ambulance over. So, I guess this is all payback, but Roman took it a little bit too far. He wouldn't have died in that ambulance when Strowman tipped it over. This guy's driving it at full speed into a semi-truck. So Roman Reigns is a criminal. And the way Strowman was still able to walk away from it and he's staggering away bleeding, you had sympathy for him. I mean, he was really hurt. He was a wounded monster and he was crawling along the ground, dragging blood along with him and just refusing help and stumbling off, kind of into the darkness. And you kind of had sympathy for him. And in a lot of ways, this was the very definition of a double turn. I don't know if it's still that gray area where WWE doesn't really have heels and baby faces, but, maybe they're finally thinking in their heads, okay, if the fans want to boo Roman Reigns, let's have him do something truly heelish. Now they're probably going to start cheering him. Who knows what the fuck? It's bizarro world. But for Roman Reigns to go that far, that kind of surprised me as far as the Roman Reigns character and appealing to little kids and, all the merchandise and the baby face and the Make-A-Wish and all this shit that the WWE wants Roman Reigns to inherit from John Cena. The fact that he's trying to kill people on pay-per-views is pretty awesome. And they made Roman look like an asshole. So that goes against everything we've seen from the WWE in recent years regarding Roman Reigns. So I kind of like this whole deal, and I hope it leads to something else at SummerSlam. These two guys are either going to have another match, or we could get a 3-way or a 4-way for the Universal title. I guess we'll find out a little bit more tomorrow night on Raw. But as far as the ambulance match, it far exceeded my expectations. I wasn't expecting it to be anything good, and I was expecting Roman to win, which I knew wouldn't please anybody. And it turned out to be fucking great. Absolutely insanity, but insanity in a really fun and awesome way. So, can't say enough good things about the ambulance match and the production of the whole deal backstage after the fact. Really well done. Now we can talk about the main event. The main event was a match that we've all been talking about forever, ever since it was announced. The build to this match at Great Balls of Fire was phenomenal, and I was looking so forward to what essentially is a dream match for all of us wrestling fans. Samoa Joe taking on Brock Lesnar. Samoa Joe has been a pretty dirty heel in this. He's choked out Paul Heyman. He's attacked Brock Lesnar from behind. And here we get to the match. Joe comes out first. Then Brock Lesnar makes his entrance. And during Paul Heyman's introduction of him, Samoa Joe attacks Brock from behind again, knocks him out of the ring, brings him over to the announce table, and slams him through it. So Brock goes through an announce table before the match even starts. And in my head, I'm like, holy shit, Samoa Joe is going to win the WWE title. One off my ass. Everybody that says this is going to be a one-match deal, you're wrong. Well, guess what? You might have been right, because holy shit. After that, Brock Lesnar does get back in the ring. The referee starts the match. Samoa Joe is beating on Brock pretty good because he's already got the upper hand. He locks on the coquina clutch several times, and Brock is fighting him off every time. Finally, Brock gets a little bit of offense in and starts hitting Joe with some German suplexes, but really, Brock is in an uphill battle here. So I'm thinking in my head, eventually, Joe is going to do something like a low blow and then choke Brock Lesnar out in the coquina clutch. That's exactly what I was saying to myself in my head about midway through this match. And then we see, near the end, the low blow. And I'm like, here it comes. He hits Brock with a low blow, puts him in the coquina clutch, and instead of passing out and losing, Brock Lesnar snaps right out of it, powers out of it, lifts Samoa Joe right up for an F5, one F5, by the way, hits him with it and gets the pin and retains the Universal title just like that in a blink of an eye. Now, on one hand, I'm fine with that because I like Brock. I still think in a straight-up fight, Brock is tougher, his resume's better, and he's just an overall better athlete. Brock should beat Joe, but Joe has been doing such a good job in the build to this. And you're thinking to yourself, these two guys are going to tear the house down. Samoa Joe could win the WWE title and it would be believable. It wouldn't even be hard to fathom because you're like, yeah, Joe's a badass and he's got Brock's number. He's kicked him around a little bit already on TV and choked him out. It's totally within the realm of possibility that he chokes out Brock again. Even Paul Heyman was putting Joe over as Brock's toughest opponent to date. So I did not see this finish coming and I was a little bit let down by it. I thought Joe and Brock could go beyond this. I thought the build was really good. Joe is so awesome and so intense and not scared of Brock at all. And the way he got the upper hand in the beginning, that even makes it worse now. It'd be one thing if it was just a hard-fought match. I mentioned that scenario a few weeks ago. I said if it's just a one-on-one match and both of these guys are fighting their ass off and Samoa Joe just barely, just by the skin of his teeth, loses this match to Brock Lesnar and Brock somehow survives, I think even in defeat, it can elevate Samoa Joe. But this is different. I don't like the way this came off because, Joe should have won this match if he was able to attack Brock before the bell. Now with Brock not only surviving that onslaught, but coming back to beat Samoa Joe completely clean with one finishing move and no kick out, that kind of feels like it ends it for Joe, for me, and that sucks. So hopefully Joe will be back. Hopefully he will demand another shot at Brock Lesnar. The announcers were really putting over Brock's F5, kind of like the RKO. That's all it takes, just a split second for Brock to lift you up and hit you with the F5 and it's over. So maybe Samoa Joe comes out and says, you got lucky, give me one more shot. I still think a fatal four-way at SummerSlam is not completely out of the question with the four big heavyweights, Strowman and Roman and Brock and Joe, but why would you reward Roman Reigns, who tried to kill Braun Strowman, with a title match? I don't know how that would make sense, so they would have to figure out a way to put that match together if it happened, but if it did, I think it would be pretty good. But unfortunately now it kind of feels like Brock Lesnar is going to have a different opponent at SummerSlam, and who is that opponent going to be? There's only one opponent at this point right now that makes sense for Brock at SummerSlam, and that's Braun Strowman. I mean, look at what he survived. He not only beat Roman Reigns, but he proved that he's a monster by walking away or stumbling away from something that would have killed anybody instantly. So I think Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar is going to be the match at SummerSlam. I was wrong. I picked Roman and Brock. So I think that provided Strowman is not dead, provided he doesn't have any broken bones in storyline or in kayfabe, and provided everything is done with Roman Reigns, he should get the title shot against Brock, you would have to think. So I am very happy about that because I really like Braun Strowman and I think WWE can build this guy huge. But I'm disappointed for Samoa Joe at the same time because I wanted this match to really make him, and I don't feel like it did. I mean, he definitely put up a good fight. Brock sold well for him. Brock did business for him. Even after the match, Brock really sold the beatdown. He was stumbling away and looking back at Joe like, damn, that guy gave me a fight. But I think I could have done without the attack from behind and without Samoa Joe getting that upper hand on Brock before the bell. Had that not happened, I might not be so bothered by the loss. But because of that, it was, to me, it was just a little bit underwhelming. And maybe WWE knew that. Maybe they knew that fans were going to be disappointed about the finish to this match. That's why they gave us all that craziness in the Braun Strowman Roman Reigns match. Kind of made up for that. Because, I mean, after that, we were all going nuts on Twitter. I was even wondering how Joe and Brock were going to follow something like that. They even had the impromptu match in between. They tried to, just basically kill some time and bring the fans down. They had Heath Slater coming out to beat Kurt Hawkins, I believe, in an unannounced match. But, other than that, it was going to be really tough for Brock and Joe to outdo that. And they did at first. I mean, the match started off so hot. I love the way Joe jumped Brock like that. The fans were into it. Like, holy shit, you had that feeling again, like you got with Goldberg. Holy shit, is he actually going to beat Brock Lesnar here? But, unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. And like I said, as a fan, I'm really kind of torn on this. I know there's going to be a lot of people very pissed off about the finish. You have every right to be pissed off about whatever you want to be pissed off about. For me, even though I'm a little bit disappointed about Samoa Joe losing, I'm a Brock fan. I know it sucks. He only defends the belt every 3 months. It sucks. I get it. I 100% get it. But Brock is still a badass, and when you beat him, it has to be a big deal. And considering he already suffered a pretty big loss less than a year ago, I don't think it was really the right time to beat him again. Eventually he will lose it. Eventually he will be defeated. And who knows? Braun Strowman might be the guy to do that. And if that's the case, I don't think too many of us would be complaining about that. But, overall, those two main event matches are really what made the show, and especially what went down with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. So now I'm going to get into what else we saw on the the show as well. Probably the other big match, or the match that, got the most reaction from the fans, was the Iron Man match, was the tag team title Iron Man match between the Hardy Boys and Sheamus and Cesaro. And by the way, before I go any further, I did start losing my voice a little bit over the weekend, and it's a little bit better now, and I think I sound fine right now, but if I sound a little raspy or hoarse here or there, it's only because of that. Hopefully this shit goes away, because there's still one more thing I want to add to the Q&A before I upload it this week. But getting back to the Hardy Boys and Cesaro and Sheamus now, Cesaro and Sheamus retain the titles, another match that I predicted correctly. I actually did very, very well in my predictions. The only matches I got wrong was Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, and technically I got the Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks match wrong. Alexa Bliss walked out with the belt. I did predict her to retain, but Sasha won in a DQ. Everything else I got right. I knew there was going to be a lot of heels winning, and I didn't have any belts changing hands, and I thought for sure I was wrong. I thought for sure at least one belt would change hands, and nothing did. So I turned out to have pretty accurate predictions after all. But Sheamus and Cesaro retaining the titles I thought was great, and the match was good. And it really picked up at the end. I mean, a lot. For the first 15 minutes, even 20 minutes of the match, it was kind of uneventful. I was reading Twitter a lot, and Sheamus and Cesaro scored that first quick fall, like in the first 20 seconds of the match. They eventually went up 3-1 with like 9 minutes left, and it looked like Hardys were dead in the water. And then everybody started saying tie. Oh shit, Hardy Boys are probably going to come back to tie it up, and we're going to have another match at the next pay-per-view or something, and this issue still will not be resolved. But during the last 10 minutes and during the Hardy Boys comeback, that's when it started to get good. And the first person I started being concerned with was Sheamus. He took a couple of nasty shots. He took a top rope twist of fate from Matt Hardy, and he landed very awkwardly, and he definitely looked dazed. And after Matt Hardy got the pin, they didn't start the next fall right away. The referee actually had to cut in and make sure Sheamus was all right. He was kind of wobbly, his eyes were glassed over, and I thought he had a legit concussion, but he kept going. And he stayed in the match, so he might have just been selling really well. But then after that, he takes that double top rope move that the Hardy Boys do, and one of them, I think it was Jeff, landed right on Sheamus's head. And I start to tweet about it. I decide I want to say something like, holy shit, I think Sheamus really got his bell wrong. And then I glance over at the screen, and I see Matt Hardy's face completely covered in blood. He got a gnarly gash right over his left eye, and they even showed a close-up of it after the match. I was surprised that they did that. You could see really well exactly where he was cut. But a ton of blood, Sheamus taking a beating, Matt Hardy taking a beating. Jeff Hardy has lost a tooth in this fucking war between these two teams. It's been really good stuff. And then the finish saw the Hardy Boys tie everything up. It's 3-3. And then they go to a sequence where Jeff Hardy hits the swanton on Sheamus, but Sheamus is not the legal man. And after he hits the swanton, Cesaro dives in the ring and grabs a hold of Jeff Hardy and just pins him like shoot style. He pinned him the way Sting pinned him when Jeff Hardy showed up for his match all fucked up in TNA. Just held him down and cinched up and got the 1-2-3 with like 10 seconds left. And Cesaro and Sheamus retained the titles. I could not be happier. I'm still holding out hope that the Hardys go broken here shortly. Matt Hardy's been teasing it. We've been hearing rumors. So hopefully that's something that we can see really soon. And if that is going to happen, WWE does need to wrap up business with Cesaro and Sheamus, because that needs to end before the Hardy Boys go broken. So hopefully that's a sign. I mentioned Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss earlier on. Alexa Bliss did retain the title, but she lost via countout. She just intentionally did not get back in the ring before the 10 count. The Miz also retained the title, defeating Dean Ambrose. I was thrilled about that. The Miz Taraj was all over the place during this match. Kurt Axel is out there. Bo Dallas is out there. They're both sporting new looks, and what's funny is they are polar opposites of each other. Bo and Axel and Maurice somehow avoid getting thrown out by the referee. And eventually Bo Dallas is on the ring apron and he hits Dean Ambrose in the head from behind, and he falls right into the skull-crushing finale by The Miz. He gets the 1-2-3 and the victory and retains the Intercontinental Belt, and I could not be happier. But the match itself was really nothing that special. I'm just glad that hopefully this feud is over. We've already seen them work on SmackDown. Now they've been doing it on Raw. Enough is a fucking enough. We also, of course, had the big match between Big Cass and Enzo. And, I predicted Cass to win this thing. But in the back of my mind, I was wondering if maybe, just maybe, Enzo could do something crazy to get a victory in this match. I thought that would be stupid to do that, but I thought that if they wanted to have one more match, I mean, think about it. These guys have been tag team partners for so long. For this to be a one-and-done match, I think they can maybe stretch it out at least one more time before they finally end it and move Cass on. But no, Enzo just came out, he cut his promo, and he came out there dancing and everything, and I thought that even though that's who Enzo is, and we know who Enzo is as a character, I think just for once, just once only. He should have come out there with no promo and no dancing and just walked to the ring with a serious look on his face and don't say anything to the audience. I mean, this is supposed to be a big deal, right? His brother turned on him. This should be like the worst day of his life, and he's out there doing the moonwalk and shit. So I know Enzo is a little different. I know he's very positive and he's always happy no matter what the hell happens to him. But in this case, I think he should have been just a little bit more serious. And I also think he should have been creative. He should have hid some shit under the ring. He knows he's outmatched here. Put a baseball bat under the ring. Have a switchblade in your pocket. Hide a machete under the timekeeper's table. Do something to where you can get an upper hand on Cass. But instead, he just went out there and took his ass kicking. Cass absolutely killed him. Enzo had a couple of shots, but not really. It was essentially a squash. And that was it. You know, Enzo's done. Cass beat him with a big boot, I think, in the end, and just pinned him and just absolutely murdered him, which I think is fine. That's what should happen. But I thought they might get a little bit more creative with Enzo. But now I don't know where this leaves Enzo, what he's going to do on Raw going forward. I pitched the idea of moving him to SmackDown. Carmella is there. He can be involved with her in some way, maybe even feud with Ellsworth, maybe help Carmella cash in. I think Enzo would have a fresh environment on SmackDown, and it would do him some good at this point to move over there. As far as Cass goes, keep building him on Raw. They seem to like him. He does have some new music. It's generic as fuck, but at least he's not coming out there to the same music as Enzo. And I'm sure his music and his heel character and his style will all evolve once we get rolling here. But for right now, nothing too special about Cass. He beat a guy half his size, whatever. Let's see what he can do when he gets in there with some of the big boys. I picked the Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt match right, too. This match actually opened the show, and when you look at history and you look at Bray Wyatt's feuds and all the big feuds he's had, he always wins that one match, and I knew this would probably be the one he's probably going to win here and lose at SummerSlam, which is exactly what happened. It wasn't even in that controversial of a fashion either. I think him and Seth Rollins were tied up in the ropes during the finish, and he thumbed Seth in the eye when the referee wasn't looking and was able to hit Sister Abigail for the win. So, you know, unfortunately with this feud, it just doesn't interest me at all. I think it's nothing special. It's two semi-main event guys that WWE doesn't have room for in the title picture right now, so they're just throwing them together to give them something to do, to give them big opponents to work with, and that's the only point of this feud. This is a pretty run-of-the-mill Bray Wyatt feud, nothing special. Seth Rollins lost, no big deal there either. I'm sure he'll pick up a victory at SummerSlam. And then on the kickoff show, they moved the Neville and Tozawa match too, and luckily Neville did retain the Cruiserweight title, which I predicted he would. I would not have wanted to see him lose on the kickoff show after a run this long. So he beat Tozawa with a low blow. I guess they're probably going to do something else. But for right now, Neville hangs onto the belt, and it looks like my prediction will come true. The day that he won that title, I said he should hold it until SummerSlam, and it looks like that's what's going to happen. So overall, when you take a look at this show, I think it's pretty crazy that this show was actually considered decent, despite the fact that not only was it very heel-heavy in the victories, but no titles changed hands at all. That's pretty amazing. So I enjoyed the show, especially the last 10 minutes of the Iron Man match. I did enjoy the main event to a degree, even though part of it disappointed me, and I really enjoyed what Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns did. So overall, I thought the show was pretty good and pretty brutal, and we had a lot of blood. I didn't even mention the other blood. We had Alexa Bliss bleeding. Oh, I didn't mention that either. Shit. My bad. After Alexa Bliss lost purposely via countout, Sasha Banks got pissed and attacked her from behind as she's walking away from the ring. The two ladies brawl over to the announce table, and Sasha winds up hitting Alexa. She knocks her off the stage, and she goes down to the little pit down there. And then Sasha stands up on the announce table and does the double knee thing into Alexa, who lands right on the concrete. It just looked like there was a layer of carpet underneath there, that's all. And landed hard. I mean, a really sick bump. I was worried about her being concussed as well. And after that spot, they were helping her up. She had some blood coming from her nose and mouth. And Dean Ambrose had a bloody mouth in his match with The Miz. So we had 4 people. We had Matt Hardy, we had Alexa Bliss, we had Dean Ambrose, and we had Braun Strowman all bleeding tonight on one pay-per-view. That's pretty fucking insane. So, you know, when you factor in the blood, when you factor in the Roman and Strowman craziness, and some of the other things that we saw, I give this pay-per-view like a C+, B-. I think if Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar would have been a little bit better, I would have given this pay-per-view a much higher grade. Now, before I get out of here, normally when I do a pay-per-view review, I just talk about that and I leave. But unfortunately, we had a very busy Friday in wrestling a couple of days ago. All sorts of news was breaking. The first story was that Austin Aries has been released from his WWE contract. And apparently he asked for his release. And a lot of people were pretty surprised about that. I was too. To me, that wasn't video worthy. A lot of people were tweeting me, oh my God, are you going to come up and make a video about Austin Aries? I'm like, no, not really. There's really nothing to say there. They can't all be home runs. When WWE brings in international talent or Ring of Honor talent or TNA talent, it all works out pretty well for the most part. I can't believe how many guys are having success in the WWE that came from elsewhere, but they can't all work out. Not everybody can like it there. So if he asked for it, I wish him nothing but the best, and I say good for him. That environment is not for everybody. Maybe he just didn't like the WWE's way of doing things. He didn't like that lifestyle, that schedule, maybe the politics. There could be a lot of factors. He just didn't like the WWE in general. It just wasn't for him. You know, Austin Aries can make a fine living outside of the WWE. He wanted to leave. I don't find anything controversial about this. A lot of people work for WWE. They have a lot of wrestlers on their roster. Sometimes guys are going to leave, and sometimes they're going to want to leave. Not everybody wants to be in the WWE. About a half an hour after the Austin Aries news broke, then we got a story about Dixie Carter. Dixie Carter, of all people, doing an interview for the WWE Network. What the fuck? What year is this? We have Austin Aries being released and Dixie Carter's on the WWE Network. I'm confused. But they're doing a Kurt Angle special on the network, a WWE 24, that I think is actually going to air tomorrow night after Raw. So I'll be sure to check that out. But they interviewed Dixie Carter, which makes me think, are they actually going to say the initials TNA on any sort of a WWE production? We might actually hear that out of their mouths. So apparently she did an interview for the special that we're going to see tomorrow night, and I can't wait to see it. Dixie Carter is going to get this thing ratings. People are going to tune into this just to see Dixie Carter under a WWE umbrella. That's pretty crazy. But, you know, when you look at it, if WWE wants to do a piece or a story on Kurt Angle, they cannot ignore TNA. He was there longer than he was in the WWE. So at least WWE isn't being so foolish that they're just going to pretend that TNA doesn't exist like they always do. At least for Kurt Angle, they know that they have to bring it up. So I can't wait to see how that whole interview comes off. I'll be looking forward to seeing the special. And the other big news that took place the same day, just a couple of hours after that, was at the SmackDown house show at Madison Square Garden. United States title match, Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles, and AJ beat him. That's right. How cool is that? AJ Styles gets to say that he won a championship in the WWE in Madison Square Garden. I think that's really cool of the WWE to give that to him. And if they're looking ahead to their schedule, they might not get that opportunity again. He might not even be in a title feud next time they hit into that town. And he's 40 years old. So it's something that they wanted him to accomplish and they wanted him to do. And I think that's so fucking cool. And Kevin Owens just sold it beautifully. I watched like a fan cam footage of that match. And after the finish, Kevin Owens just so brilliantly slowly rolls sadly outside of the ring. He even teeters on the apron before eventually falling to the floor. Hilarious stuff. And AJ got to celebrate with the United States title in front of Madison Square Garden. I don't know if that's going to be a quick title change. Sometimes back in the day, back in the 90s, they would have a title change hands on a house show, and then they would lose it back at another house show. So I really don't mind these occasional house show title changes. I think they're good for the business, and I think they're good for the company. And Madison Square Garden is such an epic building. It's WWE's living room, and for AJ Styles to win a belt there has to feel pretty good for him, for his bucket list, and is a nice feather in his cap for him. So just for AJ's career, I'm just happy for him. I just think that's totally awesome. So anyway, that is it for me. I am out of here. That Q&A is almost ready. I'm going to have it up to you in just a couple of days. Maybe, if I'm lucky, maybe even Tuesday, Wednesday, might be later week, but it's definitely just about done and coming to you. I just want to make sure my voice is okay before I throw one more question in there. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. Like I said, leave me all your comments on Great Balls of Fire below and what you think the WWE might do going into SummerSlam, and anything else you want to tell me, hit me with it in the comments. Give this video a like, give this video a share, and you better goddamn subscribe to this channel. I will talk to you guys very soon. Take care of yourselves. Until next time, peace.